This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN Newswatch. I'm Wendy Griffith. We begin with the Democratic National Convention heading into its third night. Democrats aiming to create a surge of enthusiasm behind former Vice President Joe Biden's presidential bid. Last night, Biden became the Democrats' official presidential nominee after receiving the majority of delegate votes. Tonight, former President Barack Obama will headline the virtual convention, along with a message from 2016 presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. And Kamala Harris, Biden's vice presidential running mate, will get a chance to highlight her intended role. Their aim to share messages of unity and support for Biden. Last night, Biden's wife Jill spoke from the heart about her husband.
The burdens we carry are heavy, and we need someone with strong shoulders. I know that if we entrust this nation to Joe, he will do for your family what he did for ours. Bring us together and make us whole.
Meanwhile, President Trump has plans to travel to Pennsylvania tomorrow, where Biden was born, just hours before the Democrats' acceptance speech. Well, CBN chief political analyst David Brody joins us now. David, so far in this convention, we haven't heard a lot about policy. Why do you think that is?
Well, look, if you drill down on the policy, Wendy, it's pretty far left. I mean, do you want to go around the Democratic National Committee and say, we're for late-term abortion, we're for defunding the police, we're for a Green New Deal, which, oh, by the way, is going to cost taxpayers, I don't know, let me think, trillions of dollars. And so, look, what I've seen over the last or first couple nights of this convention has been pretty easy to understand, which is they're trying to play to those blue-collar, center-left, those moderate Democrats who Donald Trump won in 2016. They hope to get some of them back. So why talk about liberal policy when that is not the prescription to get them in the White House?
David, talk about Jill Biden's performance last night. What do you think she accomplished?
Well, I thought it was extremely impressive. I mean, look, she's a school teacher, right? An English teacher. I mean, she kind of reminded you of your English teacher from high school. I mean, there she was in the classroom, no less. So the visuals were good. And but beyond all of that, she was able to paint a positive character picture of Joe Biden, which others have tried to do, but only Joe Biden can do it best out of everyone. So I thought she was excellent. I thought it was down to earth. I thought it was real. Michelle Obama the first night, Joe Biden the second night. Those two have been the stars of this convention. The problem for the Democrats, as I was telling Heather the other day, they're not running. Joe Biden is, and that's where the potential dilemma could happen.
Yeah, what do you think about AOC last night? She nominated Bernie Sanders. He's not running. He's not on the ticket. The New York Post is calling it a snub of Biden. But wasn't that just procedural, or is there more to this story?
Well, Wendy, it was a snub. I mean, let's be clear. Let's get the procedural stuff out of the way. Okay, fine. She went ahead and seconded the nomination of Bernie Sanders. She's entitled to do that from a nomination perspective, procedural perspective. But when you don't mention Joe Biden at all in your 97 seconds or whatever they gave her, and believe me, that was probably 97 seconds too long for the Democrats, you got to mention the nominee of the party. She didn't do that at all. Big time snub to Joe Biden. So she accomplished a lot in 97 seconds. She nominated Bernie Sanders. She snubbed Joe Biden. And she pretty much dissed America with talking about colonialism and xenophobia and everything else that America stands for. So good job, AOC.
Well, talk about the production value of this convention. We had the virtual roll call followed by the virtual nomination. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
No. Can I do, Wendy, are you seeing that? Can I do two thumbs down?
Absolutely.
Look, can the Republicans learn anything from this in the future? I mean, for next week? I mean, this is just not all that impressive. Let's be honest. I mean, all of those people in their rooms, they are rooms doing a Zoom room, clapping like this. I mean, really? All that excitement? Look, the whole thing. And then they go to Joe Biden, and he's looking in the camera. I'm going to have to do a little reenactment. If he's looking at the camera like this, and then he looks straight. I mean, the whole thing was just a nightmare from a production standpoint. They're trying their best, but A for effort, but D for production value.
Okay, 2 thumbs down, David Brody, with the last word there. Thank you so much, David. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Wendy.
And be sure to tune into Faith Nation this evening for more on this story and the latest from our nation's capital. Well, as the battle to contain COVID continues, officials now say a widely used test may not be accurate. That comes as schools and universities struggle with reopening. Charlene Aaron has the story.
In a stunning announcement Tuesday, the FDA revealed that a popular COVID-19 test could be giving invalid or false negative results. Officials say the tests produced by Thermo Fisher Scientific are vulnerable to false negatives if the samples aren't properly processed. This as the World Health Organization warned that young people are becoming the main spreaders of the virus.
The trouble is there are areas of the country, several, that are actually in community spread.
Colleges and universities grapple with reopening their campuses as outbreaks occur. Parties like this one at the University of North Georgia last weekend are part of the problem.
We can't have these large parties because of the level of asymptomatic spread.
With at least 89 coronavirus cases on the campus of Notre Dame, the president is moving undergraduate classes online and canceling most in-classroom instruction.
If these steps are not successful, we will have to send students home, as we did last spring.
Officials at UNC Chapel Hill have already canceled most in-person instruction, and students are being encouraged to leave campus.
I think we're going to wait it out, and once they kick us out, we'll go home. Yeah, I think that's our plan for now.
Students on the campus of the University of Colorado Boulder are concerned after 6 cases of the virus were detected. The infected students are now in quarantine, but the school still plans to hold in-person classes as testing continues.
We're going to be setting up a program for testing of individuals randomly to try and find cases before there is an outbreak.
Meanwhile, Thermo Fisher says faulty test results are rare, and most users get accurate results by following company directions. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Charlene. Turning overseas now, an international tribunal in the Netherlands convicted a senior Hezbollah member of assassinating Lebanon's prime minister 15 years ago. As CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl reports, it throws the spotlight on the Iranian-backed group once again.
The Special Tribunal for Lebanon all but blamed Syria and Hezbollah for involvement in Hariri's killing.
The growing opposition to the Syrian presence in Lebanon threatened Syria's interests. The trial chamber is of the view that Syria and Hezbollah may have had motives to eliminate Mr. Hariri and some of his political allies. However, there was no evidence that the Hezbollah leadership had any involvement in Mr. Hariri's murder, and there is no direct evidence of Syrian involvement in it.
Hariri was assassinated in a massive truck bomb blast in 2005 that killed 21 others and left damaged buildings and a huge crater. The only thing left of the driver was a tooth, so his identity was never uncovered. The verdict was delayed for years due to Hezbollah's grip on power. The court found one senior Hezbollah member guilty, while 3 others were acquitted of involvement in the murder.
He was assassinated because he was against the policy of the regime in Syria, and he wanted to take this regime out of Lebanon. We all said this, right? But when it comes from a court, that shows that what we've said before in the past is true.
Several years after the assassination, Rafiq Hariri's son, Saad Hariri, became prime minister. He resigned last October amid anti-government protests and a failing economy, and stayed on as caretaker until January.
We all know the truth now, and it remains that justice will be executed regardless of how long it takes.
It's now up to Hezbollah to turn over Salim Jamil Ayash. The huge blast that rocked Beirut on August 4th, leaving nearly 200 dead, 6,000 wounded, and hundreds of thousands homeless, also caused many to point the finger at Hezbollah. The Iranian-backed group may have stored weapons at the port, adding to the explosion.
My demand is that the truth and justice for Rafiq Hariri and his comrades leads the way to knowing the truth and achieving justice for all the innocents that perished in the Beirut blast.
Hariri called on Hezbollah to come clean and for coexistence between the various factions in Lebanon. He said the only way they will be able to rebuild their country is if they are honest and work together. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, how residents in Iowa are recovering after a powerful and very unusual storm left a massive trail of destruction. But before we go to the break, here's a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
Having sex before you marry is a bad idea. Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
Tens of thousands are still without power in Iowa after a powerful storm equaling a level 2 hurricane swept across the state. Last Monday's powerful storm, known as a derecho, left a trail of destruction in its path. Look at that. 100-mile-per-hour winds uprooted trees, toppled power lines, and damaged more than 8,000 homes in Iowa. 14 million acres of farmland were leveled, destroying 40% of corn and soybean crops. Officials say at least 4 people were killed. Iowa's governor says total losses to the state are nearly $4 billion, but they are still counting. Well, Liz Lenz, a columnist for the Cedar Rapids Gazette, has been reporting on the recovery efforts and basically living through this. She joins us now from Cedar Rapids. Liz, thanks for being with us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me and for talking about this very important issue.
Liz, I got to be honest, I'd never heard the word derecho, which is like this powerful, strange line of storms that does hurricane-type damage. I mean, you guys aren't anywhere near an ocean, but when you look at the damage, it looks like a hurricane went through your state. This was 9 days ago. Describe what it was like.
Well, you know, I had never heard of it either until it came and destroyed my town. So, you know, what it was like was we had no warning. We had very little warning. I work in the news, so theoretically I should have been informed, and all I knew was that a thunderstorm was coming. And because of the pandemic, I've been working out of my house with my children there, and I'm frantically filing for a deadline, and I hear the sirens go off, and my kids are very safety conscious. They beeline it to the basement, but our cat Waffles, he was out, and you know, my kids are like, make sure you save Waffles. And, you know, I thought it was a thunderstorm. So I stayed up. I kind of was like looking out on the back patio for waffles. I go out onto the front porch to look for him. And the next thing I know is there is a tree down. A tree had just fallen over on top of my neighbor's car. And I jump back inside and I start hearing the snap, thump, and it's hitting my house. And I can see it hitting trees, hitting neighbors' houses. I saw, just giant, I live in an old part of town. I saw giant trees just kind of snap in half and fall up with their whole root systems exposed. And pretty soon I wasn't able to see anything because branches fell in front of my window. And I went to the basement and held my kids until it was all over.
Well, please tell us that Waffles is okay.
Yes, Waffles is okay. He is a little hero. He came home right after the rain stopped, I was very grateful to him for surviving.
Well, let me ask you this. You wrote in the Washington Post about the underreporting of this disaster, and honestly, I hadn't heard about it either. Why do you think it hasn't received more national attention?
Well, I think there's a couple things. First of all, was this storm didn't just wipe out communication in my town. It wiped out communications for large parts of the state. People just weren't even able in my city to communicate with each other about the scope and breadth of the damage, much less, garner national media attention. And then the other thing is, all the local reporters on the ground, including myself, we've all been living in disaster and reporting on disaster. I was doing interviews while scrubbing my underwear in my neighbor's front yard in a plastic tub because I've been out without power for almost 10 days now. And, and so it's hard to shout out for help when you're barely breathing and surviving. So, the other thing is there's a lot going on in the news right now. And so people are just having a hard time focusing. So I don't think anybody's cruel or intentionally trying to ignore Iowa. I just think the scope and breadth of this disaster, it just hasn't been fully impressed upon people because there's just so much going on right now.
Yeah, well, the pictures are breathtaking. The devastation is quite extensive, and our prayers go out to Iowa right now. We thank you so much for sharing your personal story, and glad you and your family are safe. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, still ahead, a worship experience with Kim Walker-Smith of Jesus Culture and details on her newest project. Stay tuned.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the home front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
Well, you know her from Jesus Culture, but Kim Walker-Smith is also a solo artist with a fresh and timely project to share. It comes in the middle of a pandemic and at the time where the worship leader cannot take the stage to sing in her California church. Her project is called Wild Hearts, and our Ephraim Graham has a sample of the music and a great Studio 5 conversation about her latest project.
I come out of agreement with the worry and the fear I've come to know. No, they won't have a hold on me. Protector, you never, never, never let me go. You said you wouldn't leave me and you won't. You're right by my side.
Wild Heart, tell me how that's come to be.
Well, we felt like it was time for another record. I think it'd been, three years, almost 4 years since On My Side released. And I'm a little bit, I'm the artist that I don't like to record solo records until I feel like I have a story to tell. I always say I gotta live some life before I start, making more songs.
'Cause I know that you fight for me.
I went back to Redding, California, to the theater that I did Still Believe In, and the theater I got married in, and made a live record. On My Side was in the studio, which was, completely different than normal, but this one was recorded live. This is kind of my coming out of the desert season kind of record.
If you could compare the two, Wild Heart and On My Side, they're quite different.
Oh yeah. So the studio, that was a completely different experience for me and not really a typical experience because everything I'd done really was live with the exception of the album I did with my husband years ago. And I just felt like the songs and the story kind of needed to be told in the studio. It was just way more intimate and personal. All of those songs came out of a really hard season when my father died, when I had gone through postpartum depression. I just had a lot of things going on. And this record, I wanted to go back to live because that's where I'm most comfortable. I felt like I kind of came out of the desert season with my arms swinging a little bit.
Okay.
Like ready to fight, ready, just a new outlook, but kind of a new fire inside of my soul and just ready to kind of go after some things. And so this record, I wanted it to not only express life, which is why we've got a lot of you see a lot of greenery and the plants and the trees and the forest and all of those things, but I also wanted it to express the nitty-gritty a little bit. That's why I said we need some dirt in there.
Yeah.
The nitty-gritty of life. And I really, I came out feeling like my faith was really renewed and stirred, and that's what I wanted this album to do for others. These songs, I wanted it to kind of stir and renew our faith and our trust in God, our hope in God, which is really funny because I obviously had no idea what we were heading into this pandemic, like how much I would need that faith and that trust and that hope.
Yes.
It's a timely message for me as well.
Let that faith rise up in us tonight as fear is broken off, as fear falls away, as worry is silenced at the sound of your name tonight, Jesus.
What a great sound, Kim Walker-Smith. And you can catch more tonight on Studio 5 on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 9:30 Eastern Time. Up next, why doctors are calling one New York man's COVID-19 recovery a miracle.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
I am Regent's first ROTC graduate student.
A miracle COVID-19 patient who cheated death multiple times went home this week after 111 days at a Long Island hospital. 36-year-old Tito Velasquez had no underlying health conditions when he arrived at Jewish Valley Stream Hospital in critical condition back in April. Doctors said his oxygen was so low he was immediately placed on a ventilator and later tested positive for the coronavirus. During his time in the hospital, Velasquez suffered 2 strokes and a collapsed lung and was placed on an ECMO machine. The team of healthcare professionals say they were worried he wouldn't make it, but stayed positive.
We had dance parties at 6 o'clock at night in his room, made him feel proud of the efforts that he was doing and the progress that he had, and he did all the work.
Velasquez says he's a deeply religious man and that his main motivation was simply to get back to his family. Well done. We're so happy to hear you are much better. Well, that's it for this edition of the CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen today. Just email us at newswatch@cbn.com or reach out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next time. From all of us here at Newswatch, have a great day and God bless you.